the future's already occurred. There is a grand timeline that if you could be in God's perspective, you would see from the beginning of time to the end of time. My son was telling me about some future anxiety type things that he was having, and in an attempt to help him get perspective on it, I was explaining the way that I look at it, which is that we just are trapped in a specific moment in time and can't see the whole thing because we're not God. And then I saw detached timeline. All right, so I've been trying to get my son to watch certain self-help spiritual type videos, and he put this one on because he was trying to get some points for something else. The point is that he actually watched one and it seemed like connected with it, a little bit, and said something like put on another one. So we watched a couple, and then today I went to his channel, found out he has 1.77 million subscribers, so he's quite big. And there was a video that I just clicked on. I clicked on a couple. Well, whatever. I clicked on 2 or 3, and then he was talking, and it was a video about spiritual something. I wasn't really even paying that much attention. And then I saw detached timeline, and I was like, Jackson, that's what I was talking about the other night. And he was like, yeah. The other night, my son was telling me about some future anxiety type things that he was having, and in an attempt to help him get perspective on it, I was explaining the way that I look at it, which is that A, everything is the way that it's supposed to be right now, and B, that there is a grand timeline that if you could be in God's perspective, you would see from the beginning of time to the end of time. And obviously each thing that starts and ends would be like a little line along it. So somebody's life. And so basically the future's already occurred, and we just are trapped in a specific moment in time and can't see the whole thing because we're not God. So there's much less point in worrying about the future if you know that the future's already happened. You just don't know about it yet, basically. And it's just like the past, actually. It's just like the past, except we already know about the past. We don't know about the future. But if you are connected to the universe enough, you can know more and more and more of the future. And I have gotten relatively good at doing that, knowing more and more about the future by certain, it's a cross between intuition, perception, and kind of meditation, more or less. But everything being the way it's supposed to be, and it's not really even about supposed to be, but that's the word I use. But basically, since it's already happened from the beginning to the end, and we just can only see a little piece of it, then it means that there's I guess you could say I believe in fate, but I don't, because I think you can change what you're doing now, which makes the future different. But it's not different.
I just had a really good way to sum it up, in editing software, how there's the playhead, how the playhead sees whatever's going, but you can see the whole thing all at once. That's what it is.
It's like we are the playhead.
The playhead can see the sliver, but we, the person who's can change everything and look at everything, can see the entire thing, as it's.
Yeah. From God's perspective, basically. And this view, I guess, when I had the badass trip on New Year's Eve of 99 as the new millennium began, and the preceding, or the succeeding 3 years where I changed my major to math, physics, and economics, and accidentally got a chemistry minor. I love to say that. But all of the quantum mechanics that I learned, all of the really high level math that I learned, you basically realize that we know a lot of stuff and we can, calculate a lot of things, but there is so much. The more that we learn, the more that we know that we don't know. And that sounds like a quote, but it's like just true. The more that we learn about quantum mechanics, the more particles we learn about, and that can't exist and it's not possible. And how can every single thing that exists be empty space with charged particles that repel and attract each other? I mean, because it is. I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but there's a lot of it that does make sense, but there's a lot of it that doesn't make sense. And I had multiple kind of philosophies about time that I really wanted to pursue. And like I do with most things, I thought that everything had already been figured out and there wasn't really anything new to be done in physics. And so I just kind of moved on to something else after physics was basically over for me, like education-wise. And obviously that was a ridiculous opinion. I mean, I don't know if it was arrogant or if it was like inferior complex, but it was something, and it was stupid. And just like I failed calculus for non-engineers as a freshman and got put on academic probation, basically got suspended, and then was accepted to come back, and then had the bad trip, and then went back and made an A+ in calculus for non-engineers, and my GPA went from a 1.1 to like a 3.1 or a 2.7, or it was ridiculous. My GPA changed because they allow you to replace a grade. So the F, which was a 0, went to a 4.3, which you can obviously, I mean, when you're only dealing with like 30 hours, that's like obviously huge. So I was talking to my son about, can you, Jackson? But the point is that the other night I was trying to explain to him that if you worry about the future will come, and then you probably won't even remember worrying about it. Basically, how much not point there is in worrying about the future, because there's worrying about something that might not happen, and then it usually does, even sooner than you thought it wouldn't, and even better, and all that stuff. Or more importantly, when whatever the thing is that you really want in the future happens, your life is not going to just be amazing at that point. It's still going to be just like it is now. So if you're in high school and you just can't wait to get to college, which I've used this example before, but I actually heard it in a video very recently, and it's true. When you're in high school and you can't wait to get to college, and then you get to college and you miss high school, and then you can't wait to get a job and be making money, and you get out of college, and then you look back on college, the best days of your life, and you want to live them again as soon as they're over. And that doesn't really change anything while you're in those things. So, this is one of those things about parenting that's virtually impossible. I'm trying to make him do something he said he would do, because that's how you build character and discipline. And I have to be not nice to do it, and it really sucks. But, so regardless, like if you really want a dog and then you get a dog, yeah, life is good and it might even be perfect for a little while, but then it goes back to normal. And that's how everything always works, with the bad and the good. Something really terrible happens, you think you're never going to get over it, and in a couple of months you find yourself doing something and you think, oh my god, remember a couple months ago I thought I'd never get over that? Or that girl that I thought I couldn't live without and I was going to kill myself, and it's like, oh yeah, that was 20 years ago. Like, or that really awesome thing that you have been looking forward to forever, that you didn't actually think was going to happen, and it finally does, and like it's not as great as you wish it was, or it is and you put too much reliance on it and ruin it. So I mean, there is no way in which looking towards the future is good. And not only all of that, but it's a waste of time. Will you put him on the floor, please? Tucker! My stubborn dog has painful legs, and I try to keep him from jumping on. He's not very big. I try to keep him from jumping up, or not, especially down, and just putting all his weight on his front two legs. But he's a dog, so he doesn't realize that if something hurts, you shouldn't do it, like an idiot. So all of that is very, it's one of those things that, in a way, I feel like I heard it for a long time and didn't believe it. And in a way, I feel like I've actually always been pretty good about it. But if you can intentionally not want the future to come, but not be afraid of it to come, just having no expectations and enjoying whatever it is that you do have. And this is something I say frequently when I talk about this kind of thing, is that I have started doing, it's like a 4-step thing. It came from the 12 steps that got me sober and clean, but kind of a little process for anything. And it's gratitude, acceptance, faith, help others. And if you do that, if you think of the things that you have that you're grateful for, and then you think of the things that suck, but how you don't really deserve something more than that just because you exist, then you accept them. And if you have faith, that is something you can practice or just have or try to develop. It's kind of an open-ended one. And then most importantly of all of them is to help somebody, because of a lot of different reasons. Most people know this. Addicts are the ones that have to go through a lot of pain and work a program and do a bunch of other stuff just to get to the point that most people already know that when you help people, it both makes you feel better, it helps them, it puts positive in the universe, it makes you not think about your problems as much, it makes you compare yourself to somebody else, and if you're doing something for them, likely you can see something that, something that you could either be grateful that you had. Another of the sayings that has always been really good for me to think about is, there but for the grace of God go I, meaning pretty simply that we could be anybody, and that means anybody in a bad way. We could have a lot of things wrong or painful or that suck that we don't have, and it can make it really easy to forget sometimes that we have it really, really good. And I mean, just on a scale of humanity, I mean, we have it better than 99.999% of humans that have ever lived because of the technology period that we live in. You could argue some of that is bad, whatever, but creature comforts, air conditioner, food, medicine, all that stuff. The fact that we can, especially in this country, in developed, richer countries, you basically live a life of luxury even if you're poor. And obviously, if you're above poor, then it's just even more. So, I mean, we have it. If you can see this video, you are in the very much privileged few as far as the total of humanity. And the thing that, we deserve more, but we don't deserve more just because of whatever. We need to work for things that we want, and then we need to let go of it, and the universe does the rest. You do the heavy lifting kind of thing, and then the universe takes care of the luck and stuff. But being content with where you are, but not complacent, being really, really grateful for what you have and where you are, but not wanting to be there for long because you want to move forward. And that doesn't mean money. That means, it can mean money, but it certainly means a lot of other things than money. And this whole conversation that I was having with him was specifically to, he was having a recurring anxious type, distressful emotion. And I was trying to help him find ways to use the brain to kind of deal with it. And not be miserable now, and to not cause more misery later also. But who can see it that way? Tucker. I think you... Tucker, stop. You can't... I promise. This is said dog of earlier, and said barking of just now. So he said, who can see it that way? And I would say that if you can connect with God on a deeper level, you can see a little bit into the future, but pretty much God is the only one that can see. And when I say God, a lot of people think a lot of different things. I'm not speaking to my beliefs when I say God. I happen to be a Christian, but that isn't necessary or required in order to use the word God in this sense, because I'm talking about the creator of all things, that is all things, and all the stuff we don't understand. And so God could be kind of inside of every, particle and stuff in a more conscious way than we're aware of now. Or it could be more like the classical belief as far as speaking to this thing I'm talking about, the timeline. But God would be the only one that would be able to actually see the whole thing, unless there's something about it that we don't understand that would, I guess I wouldn't really be able to answer that other than to say that God's the only one I can think of. So is that all you got? I don't know why I feel like I'm sitting. Okay, well, that's fine. The main point was about the, was the kind of the specific things that I was saying, and then how crazy it was that we saw a video just a couple days later where it's the first time I've ever heard anybody say anything like detached from the timeline. And I don't think he meant it exactly the same way I mean it, but I do think that he probably thinks of it like, a timeline, the way I think of it, but I don't know that that's what he was talking about. But still, detach yourself from the timeline. And I mean, it's good advice because there's no reason to be attached to the timeline. I mean, all you want to do is be able to live in the moment and deal with whatever happens, period. And get the most good out of the good and the most good out of the bad. And that's all. If you can do that, then you're already happy, because that's as good as it gets. There are a lot of people that look at it a lot of different ways, like how things should be and what they should do and what other people should do and all kinds of stuff like that. And you can get into should about some things, but in general, there's not really much should about it. It's being able to deal with stuff. And most importantly, the being able to, that's why the 4-step thing is so important to me, is because being able to deal is vital. It's like putting the mask on first in the plane when the oxygen pops out, so that you can, putting yours on first, so that you can help other people. It's like that. The gratitude, acceptance, the being able to deal with stuff, the whole point is to help and be with other people, and experiences with others, and the more of that can be helping people, then both the happier you will be and the more fulfilled, and usually success too. But that's just because there's value in helping people, and usually, depending on what the method is, when you help people, good things happen. And it's obviously for lots of different reasons, but we all know what that means. It means doing things to make other people's existence better, and that's good. That's good, and then good things happen, and it's kind of like a chain reaction. And all of the major religions, it's very similar to the belief system of all benevolent belief systems, because we are here together and we're not meant to be alone. So either you can use people or you can help people. And there are a lot of people that are kind of struggling. There are a lot of people that are kind of struggling, and everybody is struggling from time to time, and but when you can be not struggling and be helping people, those are kind of optimal. So you just try to do that. And whatever situation you find yourself in, that's where you start from. I was in a situation where I had done a lot of really dumb, dangerous and what's the word I'm looking for? Dangerous and damaging things, and was kind of starting, when I really started the journey that is still going now, I was in prison, and I had to sit there and soak it up, the pain, and use it for fuel for not forgetting this time, because I had gotten clean many times and I always forgot how bad it really was. And every time I would start using it again, thinking that it wasn't gonna be that bad again, and then it would get even worse. Like the typical, every story I've ever heard in recovery is like that. If you go back out, it's even worse, period, always. So from time to time, from day to day, it gets worse every single time. So, I had to decide that I was going to not forget, and I still thought I might, and kind of have at times, but, the self-growth, the introspection and healthy things, they started and then kind of increased, and over time, and then especially the last few years have been very, not perfect, but very spiritual and present and responsible and providing and, progress making and searching and all of the stuff, not causing any more problems and fixing damage that I had done when I was in active addiction, to the point that I'm almost all the way caught up to normal. And it's taken years, and it sucks because I was out there doing stupid addiction shit for a long time. But a lot of it was because of relationships that I either put too much, that I either relied on too much or took for granted. And then it was always, I'm not going to ever meet anybody again, and I would, and then I would screw it up somehow. So the goal is to learn from that and not do those things. And the situation I'm in today doesn't really relate to that. So I can't, I'm married, and marriages take work and have ups and downs and stuff. So it's a little different. We have a 12-year-old son, and he's sitting right there, asleep. Sitting right there, asleep. Asleep. Sitting right there, asleep, my 12-year-old son is. So I just woke my son up in the video. That's funny. I guess I'm that boring. So that's pretty much all of it anyway. I don't know how much of this I'll use. Probably cut some. I kind of rambled there at the end. So, wanted to get this explanation out there. I hope really badly that it helps at least one person. I hope at least one person watches this video all the way to the end, and I hope at least one person likes it. That would be success. Click the stuff, and yeah. Until next time, this side or the other.